Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome to the February 4th, 2026 Sunshine Meeting of the members of the Public Safety Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee, as well as any other member of the City Commission that wishes to join us. I want to thank Vice Chair Laura Dominguez, committee members Monica Matel-Salinas and Tanya Bott for joining us, as well as our colleague Commissioner Joseph Magazine for joining us this morning. Mr. Attorney, why don't we read the public comment?
Of course, Mr. Chair. During the hybrid sunshine meeting, the members of PSNQLC will be physically present in the Commission Chamber at 1700 Convention Center Drive, 3rd floor, Miami Beach, Florida, 33139. Members of the public who wish to attend this sunshine meeting or provide public comment in person may appear at the Commission Chamber. Members of the public who want to participate or provide comments virtually during the sunshine meeting may join the webinar via Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. The purpose of today's Sunshine Meeting is twofold. First and foremost, we're going to be discussing at the beginning of the meeting the preparations for the boat show, the yacht show, specifically traffic and safety. Then we're going to be speaking about the city administration's plans as it relates to spring break. I expect a holistic and comprehensive presentation on absolutely everything from transportation and traffic flow to our marketing and communication campaign, to parking, accessibility, beach access, sidewalk cafe impacts, sanitation, barricades, everything related to spring break. But we're going to start off the meeting by allowing the public with a reasonable opportunity to be heard, so the residents and businesses in the community who wish to chime in on spring break or the boat show can do so. Are we all on the same page, colleagues, on this order for today's meeting?
Yes, and if I may, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank you for calling this meeting, because I've had this item on the agenda for several months to discuss spring break. I think our businesses deserve to know how they should be preparing to and planning for what in many cases is the biggest month of the year for them, and it wasn't called, and so I'm really appreciative that we're having this robust conversation in the sunshine today.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, that is the order for today's meeting. With that, if there's members of the public wishing to speak, you're welcome to approach the podium. So members who are physically present, you can approach the podium if you wish to speak on any of the issues that we have on the agenda. We're going to start with Mark on Zoom. You have your hand raised. Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Is there a way I could turn on my camera? Not that I'm so pretty, but
no,
okay.
Unfortunately that's not allowed. But welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
All right, I'm smart. Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, Commissioner Fernandez and Commissioner Bott and all other commissioners for holding this meeting about public safety and traffic. I think when it comes to these sorts of meetings, we really have to face the most pressing, severe, and immediate concerns. And while spring break is a month away and the boat show is only 4 days, we really should be talking about the proposed water park at the Fontainebleau. It's 250 feet of water slides. It's an 108-foot concrete tower right in the Fontainebleau backyard, which is already busting out of the seams of every valet. Now, if you look at Collins on a regular 2 o'clock afternoon, I have a photo, which I wish I could hold up, of a fire truck driving into oncoming traffic because it cannot reach the emergency because it is such gridlock. And this is the most pressing issue. This is a permanent spring break on Collins. This is a permanent boat show on Collins. It's like a carnival cruise. And Fontainebleau will continue to lie to everyone, the public, politicians, and they'll say it's not open to the public, where I'm holding up a resort pass of 180 guests for a day pass here at the Fontainebleau. This is a 911 emergency. I'm shocked the fire department's not talking about this. The police department's not talking about this. But everyone looks to you guys for leadership. I know this is going to the historic board, but as commissioners, you have the strongest voice, you have the most impact, and you have to alert everyone that on February 10th, this Tuesday, the historic board is going to be voting on this at 9 a.m. at 1700 Convention Center. Everyone should be there and give their opinion and talk about this issue. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm happy to.
Thank you, Mark.
very
And
much.
just for purposes of the record, and obviously the public is always welcome to participate and chime in. This meeting is specifically advertised for the purposes of discussing boat show and spring break. That is what the confines of upon which we're able, or the limits of what we're able to discuss today. So anything outside the topics of spring break or the boat show, we're not allowed to discuss today. Mitch Novick, welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My comments pertain to spring break. Mitch Novick, the Sherbrooke Hotel. I've been in the hotel business for 37 years here on Miami Beach. March traditionally has always been the pinnacle month financially up until recent years. It's more equivalent. I compare it to June through September in terms of my numbers. I would ask you to not have a marketing campaign that tells people not to come here. My clientele is not a spring break patron, and but it washes over and diminishes everything, and that's shown by the numbers. Also, I would ask you not to close Ocean Drive to vehicular traffic. When that happens, Ocean Court, which my property abuts, becomes a cesspool of traffic. The state or the county's Department of Transportation has categorically stated that Ocean Drive or Ocean Court was never designed to handle the vehicular capacity a closed Ocean Drive creates. And this past month with its closure, it's very disruptive to my business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. And relating to the marketing campaign, I hope we'll be able to see it at today's meeting. Mark Gelman, you have your hand raised on Zoom. You have 2 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Good morning, Alex and other commissioners and committee members. Question regarding the boat show, yacht show that's going to be along Indian Creek. Yesterday, I took a walk east on 41st Street and reached Indian Creek, or tried to reach Indian Creek, and there seems to be construction occurring along the sidewalks and on the north side of the 41st Street bridge leading to Indian Creek, and that will halt any access over to the boat show. Are you aware of this construction, and why is it going on during the boat show?
Thank you, Mark. Yes, that's related to FDOT's dual turning lane project on Collins Avenue. There is a moratorium that we'll be speaking about later today that goes into effect, I believe, today. A construction moratorium specifically on the blocking of travel lanes, and that's a moratorium that's being implemented because of policy that the commission over the years has passed. And so the blocking of the sidewalk on 41st Street is directly tied to that, and I believe our transportation director, Jose Gonzalez, who I was speaking with earlier, was going to be looking into the issue of the pedestrian access on 41st Street so that pedestrians on 41st Street don't need to cross. We'll be expanding on this specific issue after public comment. Thank you, Mark. Are there any other members present in the chambers wishing to speak? Please approach the podium. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, Troy Wright, Washington Avenue Business Improvement District. More than ever, I've heard from the business owners and the property owners regarding Washington Avenue and spring break. A lot of them are afraid of the economic impact that will happen. Many think that they've taken one for the team the last couple of years, and they have. But now they need reassurance or to hear something from commission or from this body to say, we're going to turn this around. We've heard you. We're listening to you loud and clear, but we need something to make sure that we alleviate the fear. There's a lot of fear. We have businesses that are gone now, that were not here, that were here, I should say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that lost their businesses because of spring break and the shutdowns that happened. So we're asking that a plan, I'm hoping that one is in place today, that we can pass on to the business owners. In addition, that we do not have to deal with barricades once again. The barricades are a nightmare for any business setting up. They feel like they're in a prison camp or something like that, and it prohibits good customers from stopping at their residents and businesses. So there's a lot more I could say, but I wanted to listen and hear more from you, and I didn't really want to say much more because I know there are a lot of people that have a lot more to say about this, but we need some direction from you. We also need some help in helping the businesses on not just Washington Avenue, but Miami Beach as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. And please extend to the businesses that you represent gratitude because they have cooperated over the years of the implementation of all of these restrictions. Some of them actually, some of the ideas came from the businesses because they understood that we had to turn things around. And I think you're right. We need to be seeing now, how do we keep our promise of being able to have a month of March where the city doesn't have to be shut down, where we don't need to have barricades, where we don't need to have extreme parking restrictions or, extreme limitations to the access of our beaches or even our sidewalk cafes for that matter, when it's most pleasant to sit outside, because those were the promises made. Strict restrictions, but not making them permanent restrictions so that people can come back and enjoy Miami Beach. Inez's iPhone, you have your hand raised. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, I want to echo what Troy just said, and I think that last year was an overkill, and those barricades it just makes everything worse. And I think we have a good police department, and we pay them very well. And you should trust the police to keep order, peace and order in our city without a campaign telling people not to come. I thought it was kind of like a joke to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars to tell people not to come. So I hope that this year just open up, let the streets open, let the police do their job, and let's get back to just a normal life. Thank you for all your service and your time.
Thank you. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you. You have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. Steve Polisar, Chairman of the Miami Beach Hospitality and Nightlife Committee. First, I want to thank you guys for having the committee. Thank you for having today's meeting. And rather than get into the details, I've been a resident of Miami Beach all my life. I've owned businesses on Miami Beach. And I think the city had a good reason for clamping down on spring break in the years past. However, we did a good job with that. But now you guys are the city fathers and mothers of this city, and respect for the balance of the residents and the businesses is part of our job. And I'd like to see a little respect now and give the businesses an opportunity to breathe. I think we have a terrific police force. I think these guys could do a great job. And and the marketing situation, we're sending out some messages. I actually heard it on the radio this morning on the way coming in about how yes, it's on the radio today. We're clamping down, we're shutting down for spring break. And one of the gentlemen came up here and if Mitch Novak says we should open up, I mean, that tells you an awful lot right there, I thought he was going to talk about the water park.
Coincide,
I thought he was going to talk about the water park at the Fontainebleau, but he didn't. So That
can't.
said, I think that you guys are in position to give the businesses an opportunity with balance and the police doing their job. And let's see what happens. I think it would be good for the city. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Steve. And I think what you're mentioning about the campaign is so important. I haven't seen the campaign yet. I'm eager to see the campaign. I'm excited to see Melissa's presentation later. Commissioner Body recognized.
Steve, if you could that wasn't a message put out by the city, so can you let us know where you heard it so we can?
I heard it on the radio today on Channel 610
6:10, okay,
at about 8:45.
thank you.
Yeah, well.
Okay. All right. With that, I see we have David with his hand raised on Zoom. Welcome, David. You have 2 minutes to speak. Good morning, David. You need to unmute yourself. All right. We'll go back to David. Let's go to Andrea. Andrea, good morning. You have your hand raised. You have 2 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning. Thanks for having this meeting and letting us speak. I'm one of the people who emailed as a concerned resident of Miami Beach about the boat show coming back to Indian Creek. So I'd like to hear a little bit from you guys how it ended up coming back, because when I moved here 8 years ago, it was here and it was the worst traffic nightmare. And as my kids have gotten older and then are in school now, it can take me 2 hours to get to their school, which is, I'm on 50th and Collins. The school's on North Beach Elementary. It's on 41st and Prairie. So since it's a residential neighborhood, and as we've already talked about, the traffic here can get really, really intense during the weeks, even from conferences at the Fontainebleau. So what's the plan? How did it come here? Is it supposed to be permanently back here? All those things. Can you give me the context, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
And our Assistant City Manager, Maria Hernandez, will be making a presentation after public comments about this. I will tell you that there is a multi-year agreement beginning, I believe, this year that runs through 2030 with a 5-year option for renewal of this yacht show coming back to, I believe our most residential corridor, Collins Avenue. We have so many people that live there, and I agree with you. There are a lot of concerns. Just for the record, I did vote against the expansion of the boat show and bringing it back when this came before us last year in the midst of all the traffic. Commissioner Bond, I think you had your hand raised. No? Okay. All right. But Andrea, we will be going into a presentation by our administration on the boat show right after we're done with public comments. Welcome, Joel, welcome. State your name for the record.
Hello.
We have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Joel Stedman. I'm from Twist Nightclub. I'm also on the Miami Beach Nightlife Committee. And I just want to say thank you for letting us speak about this, because I think it's really important y'all hear from us that are on the ground level, experiencing everything as it is. First off, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our experience at Twist last year on the alleged high impact weekends. Well, they were not high impact. Washington Avenue was virtually empty. Very little foot traffic. Espanola Way had a few people, Twist had a few people, M2 had a couple, but virtually empty. So I guess what I want to say is I believe we've achieved the goal of squashing the problems that we had. I'd like to congratulate our police chief and the Miami Beach Police Department. I think they did an amazing job, and they've done an amazing job. Thank you to the commissioners. Really, I think job done. Now we have to recognize that there's been a lot of collateral damage. A lot of businesses suffered, as Troy mentioned on Washington Avenue and throughout. We've seen so many businesses empty out in the last couple of years. We have to stem the tide of that. And I feel like the commission is getting that vibe, and we really appreciate it, because it's going to be too late if we don't act soon. But thank you to the police department. You guys are doing a great job. And honestly, I think we can entrust in our police to keep us safe. I think we can greet our tourists with palm trees and open beaches and open garages and And let's get rid of those awful barricades. Let's open up the sidewalk cafes and let them flourish. We live in the most amazing city in this world. Let's show it off. Really, it's time for Miami Beach to reopen. It's time for us to get Miami Beach working again.
Thank you, Joel.
I did
Thank
my
you.
2 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Punet Kaplan, you have your hand raised on Zoom. You have 2 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Hi, I'm also on Collins in the 5200s, and I am very concerned about the boat show traffic, especially since there's also closures on Pine Tree and Lagorce, which usually takes the brunt of the traffic when you can't get down Collins. So I'm really worried that the next 2 weeks are going to be a complete nightmare. And then my other concern is I feel like there are people, especially the construction for the new building next to my building, next to the firehouse.
Punet, you're stating something important, but you're cutting in and out. If you could repeat yourself, because we missed an important part of what you were stating.
So first, like, I'm worried about the traffic because there's also street closures on Pine Tree and Lagorce, which takes the brunt of the traffic when Collins is backed up. So I don't know what's going to happen the next 2 weeks. Where are people going to go? And then the other problem is I feel like the construction that's happening on 52 or 5300 for the new building has access to the turning light timing, because I live right there and I know they manipulate the time. Like if they have a truck that wants to come out, they'll stop the light, they'll hold the light, and that's not acceptable. I don't know why they have access. Also, I noticed this week that by Eden Rock, the parking lot there, they had the light also timed for them for getting out of that parking lot. And that's not acceptable either. You're holding up my traffic. I'm a resident. I want to be able to go and come back. I don't need the light being held at red because they want to get their equipment out for 30 minutes. So these are my concerns. And then wait, one more thing.
Yes.
A suggestion to help businesses in Miami during the off-peak months, the summer months. Maybe we can remove resort fees to incentivize people to come here and to help residents to be able to afford going out to eat and having staycations in Miami if they don't have to pay the resort fee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your participation, for your comments, and we'll address a lot of these when we enter into the boat show discussion. Welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. Stefan Genez. I'm the owner of the Hotel Gathering, 1409 Lincoln Road. Thank you again for giving us an opportunity to talk with all of you, and appreciate that even people who are not commissioners or not members are showing up, and for your interest. I don't want to repeat what was already said. I think we all share from the business side the same opinion. I think what you've done also is, like, you have put in gear, some new initiatives about replacing what was happening in March, and we also appreciate that. And what I'm concerned about is, like, it's strictly the image also of the city. When we are bringing that new clientele, these new visitors, I think that they would be in shock to see possibly some aspect of the plans that we had last year regarding barricades and all this. It's, I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but that we do get this feedback about what happened, is everything okay? So it worked extremely well. You did a great job. You have a full toolbox, and we trust all of you and the city staff about using that toolbox as needed at the last minute if needed. But just keeping in mind the image of our city with new possible visitors is important to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Dana, you have your hand raised in Zoom. Welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, good morning. I'm a resident of Miami Beach. Thank you so much for holding this meeting. Right now, I just want to know if the city can reconsider hosting the boat show in Miami Beach going forward. I understand the boat show brings visitors and revenue, and the reality for the residents is severe disruption During the show, the traffic on Collins Avenue and surrounding streets becomes unmanageable. Emergency access, daily commutes, school drop-offs, or local businesses access are all negatively affected. For many of us, it feels like our ability to live and move in our own city is put on hold. Year after year, we hear that traffic mitigation will improve, yet the congestion and the gridlock remain. The burden falls on residents, not on the event organizers. I'm asking the commission to either decline to host the show again in residential areas or require meaningful enforceable traffic and crowd management solutions that truly protect the residents and quality of life. Miami Beach should prioritize the people who live here year-round. Economic activity is important, but it should not come at the cost of basic mobility, safety, livability for residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a 10-year agreement that the city, no, it's through 2030, I believe.
5 years plus 5.
Yes, it's a 5-year agreement that we have till 2030, then with another 5-year option for renewal. If I remember correctly, Maria, there is a termination for convenience on the contract. But that, of course, that's something that, people would have to analyze at the right time after the boat show. All right. Any other members of the public attending in person wishing to speak? Jonathan, welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to commend the commission and the police department for the efforts over the last couple of years. I mean, really quite extraordinary. I, like others, would comment that I think sort of the imposition of barricades and so forth has been probably unnecessarily restricting. I think one of the misconceptions, frankly, about March, even during a most challenging period, is all of our, or many of our best Miami Beach customers are here. Grandparents with grandchildren, parents with children. It's not spring break, it's spring vacation. And we gave a message to those folks when they came to town that this is not the place to be. Now, I do want to acknowledge also, and we saw this, by the way, with the college football DJ events on the beach, which were largely very successful, but what the media covered was moments of terrible activity. They were short-lived.
A short period of.
No, I'm saying they were short-lived, but what got projected were some young people jumping over fences. So unfortunately, we have to keep in mind what happens to our brand when bad things occur. So again, I want to commend the commission and the police department. I would say for myself, I welcome a very active, visible, large law enforcement presence during spring break. I think all of us would. That's a wonderful thing. What we can't have is all of our sidewalks closed, all of our traffic redirected, people basically here and not being able to enjoy the things that we are offering for people to enjoy. And people simply couldn't cross the street. People couldn't sit on the sidewalks on Ocean Drive. We were saying to people who pay a lot of money in March, March is an expensive month, don't be here and don't go outside. Stay inside the lobby of all of our hotels. So we simply need to find the right balance where we can to make it a safe period, but also one that's welcoming. And I do commend the commission also for the programming that's been added for March. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Magazine, our colleague who's joining us this morning, has been incredibly instrumental in attracting a lot of that programming. And when we speak about spring break, a lot of it was about filling the void. How do you fill the void? We need positive activation in the city. And Commissioner Magazine, thank you for your incredible leadership in bringing good activations into our city. David, you have your hand raised on Zoom. Welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Good morning.
Good morning. Forgive me. I've been in the Whistler, Vancouver airport getting through security right now. I just listened to Jonathan and he's correct. I listened to Troy. He's absolutely correct. I listened to Joel Stedman. He is absolutely correct. We have all gone through a war for decades in many ways. But we now need to recognize that the war is over. The barricades, at the very least, or the very most, it should be the west side of Washington going into the residential area. If the people south of 5th Street, I know they were complaining, if they still want barricades on 5th Street going south, it should be there. Barricades, maybe, on Fifth Street on the north side should be there, again, to protect the residential neighborhood. Other than that, there should be no barricades anywhere. We should say, welcome to Miami Beach. But what we should also add is our police. We have numerous troops of police that have always sat in the intersections just leaning on their cars because of that traffic loop, which should absolutely never happen again. It is the most horrible experience one could ever go through. And albeit in wartime, it might have been necessary, but the barricades and the loop should be gone. Police should be working traffic detail in every single intersection from 5th to 15th Street, from Washington to Ocean Drive. And I do agree with my neighbor, Mitch Novick. Please keep Ocean Drive open to traffic. It is the Ocean Drive. It needs to be accessible. The hotels there need their customers to be able to get to the front door. If people don't realize it, the main amenity all of those hotels on Ocean Drive have is their front door access. It's essential to those hotels.
Thank you,
I want to thank the police, thank you, Alex, and the commissioners for hopefully finally acknowledging that the war is over and it's time to begin peacetime activities in Miami Beach.
Thank you, David, and I want to thank you and your employees and the employees of all the businesses, because a lot of what we implemented were suggestions that came from you guys. You guys have also been, in the front of responding to a lot of the challenges, whether it be violence and stampedes or whether it be economic impact to your businesses. And so we realize and we understand the impact that this has on all of you. And so thank you for having collaborated with our city and understood the need for these measures over the past few years. Any other members of the public in the chambers wishing to speak, please approach the podium. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity.
Your name for the
Annabelle
record.
Yopes, Executive Director at Lincoln Road. I welcome this opportunity to speak on behalf of the businesses and the landlords on Lincoln Road. And while Lincoln Road is not in the epicenter of the entertainment, it certainly has overflowed the unintended consequence that has come from the past couple of years. Certainly parking has been a challenge to tell people not to come because the parking lots, the surface lots, the garages are closed. The perception that Miami Beach was closed. I welcome to see the new campaign that not only welcomes the international consumer, but also all the consumers in the county. We have a lot of people who say they go from the beach over the bridge. We need to get people from over the bridge to come back to Miami Beach. And I think that's also a core component of the messaging that needs to happen to let people know in our city, in our wider city area, that Miami Beach is open, that we have all these amazing things here. I do welcome the positive programming that's been happening in March. When I first started here, March was a big month for foot traffic. That no longer happens on Lincoln Road. And I think bringing positive programming, great messaging would welcome people back to Lincoln Road and to the businesses because they've had hardship, especially the last 2 years. And of course, we're under construction. So that just is another layer that we have to face. And while it's welcome and we want it, we want Lincoln Road to look bright and shiny, it is going to be hard on these businesses. So we do not need another layer of hardship. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Annabelle. We're going to do 2 more members on Zoom and any other remaining members of the public who are in person. David, Simon, you have your hand raised on Zoom. Welcome, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, hello. Thanks for taking my call. I want to bring to everyone's attention, for this coming spring break and other activities, there's something new in the mix. Florida, as everyone probably knows or doesn't know, just passed the constitutional open carry for weapons, including long guns, AK-47s besides pistols. Last spring break, if you recall, Mayor Minor said they stopped 60 weapons from coming in by stopping people before they entered the Miami Beach party area, Ocean Drive. This year, they're not going to be able to stop those weapons. And people are going to be bringing in loaded weapons. I think it's a bad mix. I don't think there's anything Miami Beach can do to stop the state law, but they should try. Our police are great, but it's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for everyone. I know if I see a kid with an AK-47 walking down the street, I'm going to leave the area. That's about it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, David. Seth Fuhr, you have your hand raised on Zoom. Welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Wonderful. Good morning, Commissioner Fernandez. I'm Seth Fuhr. I'm a Miami Beach resident for 25 years. I chair the Police Citizens Relations Committee for the City of Miami Beach, appointed by Commissioner Fernandez. I'm speaking independently today, as what I say today has not been ratified by the PCRC. That said, thank you, Commissioner Fernandez, for holding this meeting today. Thank you to all attending commissioners, and a tremendous thank you to Chief Jones and the Miami Beach Police Department for the tremendous job they do at large for the city, especially for their Herculean effort every March for balancing some very difficult circumstances. The city of Miami Beach needs to figure out the future, and I know all the powers that be are working on it. I request we get the politics out of it and make Miami Beach the best that it can be. A quick note, I believe that what the Lincoln bid just pointed out really hits a big nail on the head. One of the best ways to make a difference here is to do things to get locals to come over the causeway to spend time and money here. With respect to spring break, we're in the 11th hour. Plans are pretty much in place, yet we're still waiting to hear them. We have a spring break subcommittee of the Police Citizens Relations Committee that is eager to make an impact with it. We need time to make that happen. My request is that we get to work on this in the late spring this year so we can work with the city commission, city staff, and residents at large to make the biggest possible difference for our great city with spring break next year. One that I truly hope we can show off our best side, let the residents feel safe, that it's easy to navigate the city, support our local businesses, one that people that work in the city can do so easily, and that all of our visitors have the most incredible, safe, fun, and wonderful experience where they are leaving their dollars here and bring their incredible stories home so more of their friends and families come to find out what Miami Beach is throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. And I want to thank you and the Police Citizens Relations Committee, as well as our Black Affairs Advisory Committee. Both committees have been very engaged and very thoughtful over the years on the issue of spring break and helping guide some of our policies. Even if all the recommendations are not able to be implemented, they do help us. Are there any other members of the public attending in person wishing to speak? Seeing no members of the public wishing to speak, I'm going to close the public comment period at this time. Thank you everyone who participated. And I think one of the great feedbacks that we have received is that everyone feels safer. Everyone feels that the challenges that we experienced in the past have been overcome, and it's time to be looking at the future so that we don't create self-imposed challenges on our tourism-based economy in this part of the city. With that, the order is going to be, we're going to talk about Boat Show next, followed by spring break. So Maria Hernandez, Assistant City Manager, is going to lead us on the city's preparations for a Boat Show that starts February 11th.
Good morning, everyone. So I listened to all the commentary from residents, and I think we can address all of those comments. But the first thing I wanted to say, because someone said, well, why are we having the boat show? Why are we having the yacht show again? So the boat show is not just an ordinary show. It is the largest in-water show in the world. It brings about 100,000 people to the local economy. It has over 1,000 exhibitors, and it has an economic impact to the region of almost $1 billion. So that is really the why, more than anything else. Of course, we have a lot of boaters in this community, and they love their boats and their yachts. So as everyone knows, the event is actually at the convention center, and then there are 2 special event permits that are issued for the activations that are outside, one in Pride Park, and now the one that is for the yacht show, which is on Indian Creek. The yacht show was brought back under a license agreement, like you said, Commissioner, for 5 years with a 5-year option starting this year for the first time. They hadn't been here since 2018. But this show is very different, and the agreement that we have with them is very different than what we've had in the past. So that agreement was approved on February 3rd, and there was a resident that asked, when did this happen?
February 3rd, 2025.
Of 2025, which is actually almost to the day. But negotiations really happened, or the discussions were happening in 2024, late 2024, to bring the event back. The agreement was signed in April, and it reestablished that portion of the yacht show, which is on Indian Creek. Now, the first thing that is very different in this agreement is that it has 3 major restrictions. The first restriction, is the land they can occupy, the space they can occupy. So the show is restricted to a strip of land that abuts abuts Collins Avenue from the parking lot P71. Also, the parking lot can only give up 150 spaces, and the northern portion of the parking lot, which is exclusive of the playground area, has an area of 31,450 square feet, which is all they can take. So those are one of the restrictions. The other thing to note on this show compared to last shows of the past is that this show has been reduced by 50%. So whereas yacht shows of the past were a mile long, this show is only half a mile long. Whereas shows of the past had 450 yachts, this show only has 250 yachts. Still a lot of yachts. But the yachts are basically being displayed between 42nd and 44th Street. There's also other restrictions where in no event can the yacht show or any of their operators conduct any load-in or load-out activities outside of certain hours. And that is between 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 to 11 on Saturdays and Sundays. They also have to comply with a lot of laws having to do with the bridges. So those laws apply to the 63rd Street Bridge, the East Venetian Causeway Bridge, the West Venetian Causeway Bridge, and the 79th Street Bridge. They also cannot allow any of their exhibitors or their invitees to mobilize boats under those bridges from certain timeframes. And all of this is going to have to be regulated and overseen by our code enforcement department and other departments. Of course, that doesn't apply to small boats that don't need the bridges to open. So in summary, this agreement has a lot of sort of zero tolerance policies embedded in it.
Maria,
No lane
I don't
closures.
want to talk too much about the agreement because the agreement was considered last year. I want to talk
Right.
about traffic, safety,
Yes.
lane closures, construction, deviation of traffic, messaging about it. Guide us
Right.
about on the ground, what are we doing to keep traffic flowing during the boat show activation on Collins Avenue?
Well, the restrictions on the load-in and load-out, one of the big changes that happened under this agreement is that the show is basically getting built from the water side and not from the land side. So what that does, it creates one challenge. We have to be very careful about what happens with the rowing club. We have to have safety first, considering that they also use the waterway, but it takes a lot of traffic off of Collins Avenue. So this year, this is the first time we're doing these things, and Informa, we have their senior vice president here, can take a very deep dive into all the things that they're doing to mitigate all of these challenges. As you shared with earlier, the good news is that the DOT project, which is what was causing all of the traffic problems that we were having recently, has agreed to shut down their operation starting today until the day after the boat show is
How about
open. That's
FPL?
huge.
Are there any right-of-way permits that FPL has active? Because FDOT is only one agency.
Right.
And at times we see utilities out there that might be doing work, that are getting
Yeah.
permits, that block a lane of traffic and then creates a congestion.
Well, this special event is, will fall into the moratorium of that kind of activity, especially in this area. So they're not going to be able to do, I mean, it's 100,000 people. To give you context, Art Basel's only 70,000. So we can have a lot of people here. The other thing that we're doing is that we are, the show has shuttles and other ways of getting people in and out of the event, so everybody doesn't just come in cars. And they can speak to that. I would like them to speak to that because they know every detail of what they're doing that's different. And of course, if we learn anything different this year, we will make adjustments for next year. And maybe one of the adjustments is that we have to allow them to stage a little longer on the waterway to bring the boats closer and not take up so much of the waterway. That's something I heard today. We'll have to make adjustments.
And that's
but-
one of the concerns that I've received from residents along Pine
Yeah.
Tree Drive,
Mhm.
is that the double stacking of the
Close
docks
to their
comes
homes.
extremely close
Yes.
to the homes on the waterway. And so that's something to be aware of and mindful for next year. Mark Gelman called during public comment
Mhm.
and asked about construction on the sidewalk and impacts regarding that. I know that, as I mentioned, is related to
Yes.
the dual turning lane.
Correct.
Will the sidewalk be reopened for pedestrians? Because
Jose Gonzalez.
with so much traffic, I don't necessarily feel comfortable having pedestrians, forcing them to cross 41st Street.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Jose Gonzalez, Transportation and Mobility Director. As recently as yesterday evening, there have been conversations, discussions between our city manager's office and FDOT leadership with regard to the ongoing lane closures on Indian Creek Drive adjacent to where the yacht show is activating. And I'm happy to report that as we speak, I've been made aware that the lane has been reopened and will not close until after the boat show. And that's as a result of these discussions that we've been having with FDOT.
We're so grateful to FDOT for collaborating and understanding the traffic impacts of periods like this and working with the city administration and reopening travel lanes. So if FDOT is listening, we are grateful for their cooperation. Could the administration speak with FDOT, please? Because my concern is, it's great, it's so important to reopen that lane of traffic, but equally important is making sure the pedestrianism, that we don't block that sidewalk on 41st Street where then we force pedestrians to cross the street. Has that been addressed with FDOT?
It has, and we will continue to impress upon them the importance of pedestrian mobility as well. What they've expressed to us is that, and for those who may not know, the north sidewalk of 41st Street is currently closed on the bridge itself.
Right.
On that bridge. And so that requires a pedestrian detour.
Right.
However, the
That's a
issue
concern.
with that pedestrian sidewalk closure is that it is part of a containment area that extends underneath the bridge for work that is being done underneath the bridge. And it does include that sidewalk because DOT's rehabbing the bridge. all elements of the bridge substructure, the beams, for example, and, the railings. And so that sidewalk area is closed as part of that containment area that was installed a month or more ago.
So given the
that's
amount
what's-
of vehicles, because obviously, even in the most minimal of impact, we're still going to be experiencing some sort of a traffic impact whenever you have a special event of this nature. Even if they're bringing in people through shuttles and all that, there's always going to be an impact. Will there be any police visibility there or staffing of some sort, public safety specialists, to help those pedestrians cross the street? What are we doing in terms of traffic from the police side?
Good morning, Commissioner Fernandez. Good morning, Commissioners. Wayne Jones, Police Department. We've been planning for the boat show for quite some time, yacht show for quite some time. I was having a conversation with Robin Rosenbaum this morning and told her, I remember years gone when the yacht show was here and the traffic congestion it created. I was so grateful that this year, for the first time, they're loading from the water side as opposed to the street side. And share a personal story, at the time I lived in North Beach, it literally took me 2 hours to get from 71st Street to the police department on 11th Street because of the traffic created by the load in of the yacht show. That's not happening today, and I'm grateful for it. At every pedestrian intersection, we have police officers assigned to them. We actually have had that in place already, particularly up on Collins Avenue, where they're loading in now. The Monday prior to the start of the show starts on Wednesday 11th. Monday 9th, we're going to be activating police officers to man all major intersections between 71st Street down to 5th Street, obviously here on the campus of the Convention Center and around the campus itself, to include police officers on the causeways as well, to deal with ingress and egress into the city. On the peak days, Wednesday through Friday, we're going to have as many as 128 police officers working in major intersections in the city. On the slower days, Saturday and Sunday, 55. And then a week from Monday, down to 30 police officers, again, manning all major intersections in the city, particularly during rush hour time.
Chief, just wanted, following up on the comment that we received about the pedestrian access being blocked on 41st Street because of the construction project that's going on there. Will there be public safety specialists or some sort of staffing on 41st Street, Pine Tree Drive, and then at the foot of the bridge on the other side to help pedestrians? If the pedestrian detour is going to be there, I just want to make sure that with the amount of traffic that we have coming in, or that's anticipated to come in, that we do have staffing there that will help the pedestrians cross the street safely.
There will be. On a daily basis now, we have folks assigned along the 41st Street corridor. That number has increased dramatically during the boat show, up to 18 people at every intersection from Indian Creek to Alton Road on 41st Street.
Okay, starting at Indian Creek. Okay, very, very well. Maria, one of the, I see Commissioner Bond, you've had your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question about the timing of the restricted load-in times. It seems like they cover sort of general rush hour. I would encourage, I don't know if it's possible to revisit for starting this week and next week, but I would encourage reaching out to the schools because 9 o'clock is, that's complicated. And 3 o'clock, that's too late because you need to generally be at school earlier than that to pick up your kids. So I would encourage you to reach out to the Montessori School, to North Beach Elementary, to Nautilus, anybody else who's directly on that corridor as a first starting point to see if, tweaking it by half an hour here or there gives relief to the very many residents who are dealing with that.
Very good point.
And that's such a great point, and I just want to follow up on that point because as it relates also to communication, I think, our city does such a great job in communicating with our residents, traffic impacts, plans, detours and all that type of stuff. What are we doing? Because we know a lot of the traffic that that affects our community. It's not even our own traffic. It's cut-through traffic from Bal Harbor, Bay Harbor, North Bay Village, Surfside. What are we doing to communicate with these other municipalities to let them know, hey, listen, your residents need to expect that there's going to be traffic on Collins Avenue. They may want to seek other routes, not to get stuck in that traffic or to contribute to the traffic. What are we doing in terms of communicating with these other municipalities?
That's a very good point. I could let Melissa speak to that, but I think it's great that we can do that to keep people off of Collins Avenue.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Melissa
morning.
Bertier, Marketing Communications. We actually have already put out a press release and actually communication to residents and actually have texted about the boat show, but we certainly will be reaching out. That's an excellent point, Commissioner, to North Bay Village, to Bal Harbor, to Surfside to ensure that they're also communicating that information to our residents.
And sometimes one of the, not only to the administration, but perhaps also through their police departments, a lot of their police departments also have robust means of communications. So maybe the PIOs could be speaking with each other, Chief.
Commissioner, great idea, and we will be absolutely doing that, leveraging whatever is put out by Melissa and her team. Will absolutely amplify that message to our colleagues in other police departments as well.
One of the other points that was brought up during public comments was traffic lane closures on Pine Tree Drive and Lagorce. And if people are avoiding Collins Avenue, then they'll probably be on Pine Tree and Lagorce. What are these lane closures? What can be done during the boat show to reopen these lanes and help avoid creating a bigger problem?
Good morning, Commissioner John Norris, Public Works Director. That is a very challenging situation right now. That project is to replace a sanitary sewer force main that is over 90 years old. It's a very sensitive project. Unfortunately, we are in the middle of excavation for flow control. So we essentially have two lines running down that section of roadway, and we are having to switch the flow from one side to another while we're doing the replacement. So there will be open excavations in the roadway, and it will be very, very costly to cover those up.
Okay, so I think the key thing is, and I understand that, the key thing then is communicating with people so that the people who are the commuters who are trying to get around and are trying to avoid Collins Avenue in response to, of course, the boat show, if they know then to avoid, Pine Tree or Lagorce as well. And so they can make wiser, decisions on traveling. So I think as part of when we're talking about boat show traffic and lane closures, I think, we normally wouldn't be talking about Lagorce and Pine Tree when we're communicating with people about what's happening on Collins Avenue with the boat show. But given that our residents are going to be looking for alternatives, I think it might be wise to give them the heads up so that they don't get frustrated and caught in another set of traffic that perhaps they were not anticipating.
Yeah,
Commissioner Bott.
it might be wise to actually specify heading over to Alton Road and then having the traffic details staffed appropriately to manage the chaos that's going to happen there. And I'm not trying to put this on Alton Road, but at the moment, there's no construction there, and we don't want the proverbial poop show of having an open sewer line go bust in the middle of all of this. That would be disastrous. So I'm very leery of people trying to sneak through that, and I know nobody wants to congest Alton Road any further than it already is, but in this case, it is really the only remaining thoroughfare that's unimpacted by traffic, and so let's plan accordingly and communicate that.
And that is, and it's such a great point also, and just going to build a little bit on that, Commissioner Bott. Communicating real time is important, and now we have the Real Time Intelligence Center, Chief, which is such a great asset. And we also have our own traffic cameras that we work with at FDOT. Jose, how are we monitoring these cameras so that we can be providing real-time information back to residents, whether it be text messages or emails. What are we doing? How are we using these resources?
So as part of our active traffic management services, which we do on a day-to-day basis, 365 days a year for 14 hours a day, during events such as Boat Show, we actually enhance those services to a higher degree. We have more hours of monitoring service. This is in real time. It's done from 2 locations. It's done from both the Police Real-Time Intelligence Center as well as our Real-Time Traffic Management Center, which is co-located at FTOT District 6. That the cameras are part of this traffic management puzzle. Another part of it, in terms of disseminating real-time information when there is an incident that's identified, are the digital message boards that we have strategically located throughout the city. During shows such as Boat Show, we actually have an increased amount of those electronic boards throughout the city. Just related to Boat Show specifically, there are 20. So you'll see more of them during the Boat Show days because they're specifically tied to disseminate real-time traffic information as well as parking information. As parking garages are full, we direct people to other parking garages in the area. And
Are we placing boards north of 63rd Street so that cut-through traffic that may be trying to get south, so they know to avoid this stretch of Collins Avenue?
we are, Commissioner, along the major thoroughfares north of 63rd Street. We are for those drivers that are heading south.
And the
coming
text
from-
messages that get sent when there's a traffic impact, let's say your staff is looking at cameras at the Real-Time Crime Center and at the FDOT headquarters, and they see, okay, there's a big gridlock, there's a traffic accident, there's something that's creating congestion. That messaging is sent out by your department, it's sent out by the police department. Who sends out
It's
those
sent out by
text
the
messages?
communications department.
The communications
There's a lot
department.
of back office communication that occurs as part of this active traffic management program, and communications is a key aspect. Police as well helps us confirm things in the field when we don't have eyes or ears, when we don't have cameras, for example. Police is instrumental in that regard, so is our code enforcement department, our parking department. There's a whole back office operation that
So
occurs even before a text message is
there will
issued.
be communication between transportation and the communications department to disseminate this information in real time.
Yes.
Okay, great. With that, before we move over to spring break, are there any other comments, any other questions, concerns about Boat Show that may need to be addressed, colleagues?
I'll get into it more because I have an item on the agenda and I'll go through this committee, I believe. So it's not really specific to Boat Show, but I really question the bang for the buck that we get for the digital message boards. They make our city look awful, okay? Awful. And the amount of information that they provide, I think we have 6 to 8 just in the 17th Street, Dade Boulevard, Collins Avenue corridor. And they say, Boat Show, expect delays. Do we really need that? Do we really need that? And they look absolutely awful. There is a digital message board on 8th and Alton for no reason whatsoever. No reason. It stays there permanently. I've brought it up for years. And there is an orange traffic cone as big as this chair that has been knocked down for months. Do you know how many thousands of city employees have driven past that? And not one person, not one single person that make taxpayer money have ever sat there, gotten out of their car, and stood that up. How is that possible? How is that possible? Do we not take any care or pride in how our city looks? We're welcoming thousands, tens of thousands of visitors around the world. And we're sitting here saying about being welcoming and doing this. We had one of the biggest events in the country with the College Football National Championship. New Year's Eve, the Boat Show. And we have a 3-foot orange traffic cone sitting turned over in the middle of Alton Road for months that thousands of city employees have driven by and nobody has sat there and picked up. That is just one example, but it's common for the pride or lack thereof that so many take in the city. So when we're talking about elevating our experiences for spring break, it can't just be us up here. This has to be an all-hands-on-deck effort.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I think you're right. You know, our image, how we present ourselves, does project that message of being welcoming or not. Vice Mayor Salinas.
Thank you, Chair Fernandez. I'd like to actually, Melissa, I know you sat down and I wanted to address the text messaging situation. I know we get texts about traffic, lane closures and traffic impacts and, you know, this intersection is closed due to police activity, et cetera. But I was wondering if we can also do a text message, maybe the day before the morning of boat show that says, boat show opens today, click here for more information with the website or some type of access, that communication. Do you already have that scheduled and programmed?
So we don't have it programmed or scheduled. We will send out a link, but remember it's one sentence. And I will plug, if you're not signed up for our text message, it's text MB alert to 888-777. But we can certainly do more reminders if that's what you're asking. Because normally we would do it, let's say, on a Friday. But if you want us to send additional ones, we also worry about like the fatigue. But we can certainly do that.
Mm-hmm. And I do have an item coming to the February meeting where I want to explore, as a communications effort to our residents, doing more text messages and what that balance is to not hit the fatigue, but also informing, because it's always traffic-based, lane closures, et cetera, which is great info, but maybe we need to do a little bit more.
So we do have a contract with Everbridge that the Emergency Management Department manages. But I will say it is specifically, it's a state contract, there's no cost to the city for traffic text messages and for emergency notifications.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners in attendance? No? And just, during the meeting now, just a few minutes ago, I got received a text message from a Collins Avenue resident. When did we say that the lane closure is gonna be gone?
Today?
Today by end of day or by what?
Noon, right?
DOT, I believe, had said end of day.
Okay, because there is still mobilization out there. There still is a lane closure out there. There's still active work happening there. So we just need to make sure, sometimes, you know, leadership will say, we're gonna stop work. Let's just make sure that we follow up. And that we make sure that the work stopped, and that if it didn't, that we're communicating back, hey, listen, you need to connect with your contractor, with your workers, because, you know, the mobilization is still there. As of right now, text message that was sent to me 10 minutes ago, they're still there. Yeah, with a lane closed. Thank you all. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jose, for this presentation. Hopefully everything will go well. And thank you to the boat show. We know you have been part of our city's history for decades. I'm not excited about Indian Creek Waterway because not excited because of the boat show, but because of traffic. That's what I get concerned about. Hopefully all the mitigation efforts that have been put in place, your creative thinking outside the box, hopefully helps alleviate the challenges that we're concerned about.
Just one quick thought that popped into my mind. Maria, do the boat show folks do an after the event economic impact report?
Do. Yes.
Okay, so, and that will be disseminated?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Spencer. Oh, you turned off your mic. No.
Good morning, everyone. Spencer Coley, counsel for the boat show. Thank you all so much for holding this forum. We appreciate it. I want to let you all know we're taking our commitments very seriously. We're here today. Robin Rosenbaum has joined me. She's with Public Affairs. Rob Correa, Vice President of Operations. And so to answer your question, Commissioner Bott, yes, we do a post-show economic impact report. The last one we did for Fort Lauderdale, the economic impact was up to 1.8 billion. I think we've done, the most recent one for Miami is over $1 billion, and we're planning to do another one now that we are moving back to Indian Creek. So we're excited about that economic impact number coming out because we know it's, you know, just for comparison purpose, if you look at a Super Bowl or national championship, that's, $300-400 million, and that comes once every, I mean, I'm on the Orange Bowl committee, I see the numbers, like, that comes, once every 3-4 years. This boat show happens every year. So it's a really important thing for our community.
So when you do the report, I would like to see, if you're able to do this, I'd like to see the numbers broken out between Miami Beach specifically and Metro Miami, because while there is economic impact for Metro Miami, there isn't the traffic impact to their residents. And so I want to make sure that we are benefiting, because it's an imposition on our residents. And we believe, most of us, that it's a worthwhile imposition because it generates enough revenue to make it worth the discomfort. But I'd like to see that quantified, please.
Understood. That is such a good point, because a lot of times when these economic impacts are done, yes, it's $1 billion economic impact, but it's on the region.
Right.
A lot of times, but okay, so what does that actually mean for the residents?
Miami Beach, right.
Who are
That's a good point.
sacrificing themselves with the traffic? What is the true economic impact to the taxpayers of the city of Miami Beach?
That's a good point.
Thank you.
And just in closing, I just want to thank your staff. Obviously Monica did the presentation, but Lisette, Chief Jones, Major Robinson, Jose, everyone's been great. It's our first year back, so, we're all kind of relearning this again, but we really appreciate their support and your support. So we hope to make the city proud.
Thank you so
all.
much,
Thank
Spencer. Thank you. All right, with that, we're gonna move forward to the star of the show of today's meeting, which is spring break. I think a lot of us are very anxious to know what are the preparations, specific preparations that the city is doing for spring break. What are the changes? What is our marketing and communications campaign? So I'm going to pass it over to Assistant City Manager David Martinez.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Good morning to all members of the committee and commissioners. Before I jump into spring break, just to close on your comment related to the lane on Collins and DOT. I personally participated in a conversation with District Secretary FDOT late yesterday, who assured us that their intent is to open that lane today. They're wrapping it up, putting some last paving on it, so they're working through that, and they assured us that'd be done by close of business today. Maybe a little later, but today, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
With that, spring break 26, something that is in our focus right now, has been in our focus for many months. City Manager's office and all of administration and all the departments that touch spring break in any way, shape, or form. We have convened, we have brainstormed and talked about all the different measures. So just to recap a little bit, last June, the City Commission passed a comprehensive public safety and operational strategy that was composed of 16 measures that are basically our guiding principles on how to move forward. These are very important, and as I mentioned, many departments sitting here today will be implementing or be involved in any one of these. In addition, last year in June and also in December, the City Commission approved moving forward with additional activations that staff is prepared to get into the details of it, but specifically Future Proof Conference on the weekend of March 5th through the 8th, as well as Waterpalooza the weekend of the 12th through the 15th, ending with the Adidas Games on the 26th through the 29th, which is some of the things that we're taking into consideration and what we're asking. Now, as I mentioned, there were 16 measures that we were directed to approve. At tomorrow's commission meeting, we'll be requesting that 3 of those measures that we be allowed some wiggle room, some deviation to accommodate some of the things we've seen and some of the things we've heard here today. I will briefly touch on the 16, very briefly, just so we all recall what sort of things are on there. And for the record, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on that. There's many folks here today that can give you a lot more information than I possibly could. Measure number 1, related to adopting and executing a heightened law enforcement staffing plan. I think the chief will be prepared to present that and discuss what he will be doing. We're not asking for any deviation in this particular measure. Number 2 was vigorously enforcing the open container law, which we intend on doing. Number 3, relates to the closing of the public beaches on the particular high-impact weekends at 6 p.m. This will be one of the measures that we will be asking for some flexibility. We have some ideas, and a lot of it has to do with the activations that are going on the beach side and those type of things. Number 4 has to do with the continuation of the cafe operations, what we intend, but supporting in case there's a need, any flexibility. This is not what we're asking. This is already the measure that's in place, is supporting, if necessary, suspension of the cafe operations. That's not something we intend on doing. The cafes will, the intent for them to continue as they were, but having, this measure allows the city manager's office administration to seize those operations if something were to change.
The city manager's office has the authority, but the plan today is not
Maintain.
to be suspending the sidewalk cafe operations
That
so
is
that
correct.
our visitors can enjoy sitting outside.
That is correct. That is the full intent. We want those to be successful and want to do everything we can for that to work for everybody.
Okay.
Number 5 is to, again, enforce the city's noise ordinance to its fullest. Number 6 is increasing code enforcement, parking enforcements, and fire code staffing as necessary. Number 7 is continuing to explore the implementation of a secure perimeter that has been discussed over the last few years, but it's one of the measures and is still out there. We're not asking for any changes to that. Number 8 is to continue to explore implementation of any midnight curfews or other emergency measures if they were to be needed. Again, the intent is not even to look at that
That's
particular
not being
measure.
proposed,
That
that's
is-
not being contemplated
That is
right
not being
now.
contemplated, but it is a measure that was implemented by the commission. Number 9 is to implement, as we all know, a robust marketing communication campaign. I know you're very familiar with that.
Actually, I'm not because I haven't seen it, so.
Understand, familiar that we are going to be implementing what we're calling Spring Break 3.0 campaign. And Melissa and her team from Marketing Communication can talk on that particular subject. Number 10 is for transportation team to continue to work very closely with rideshare services such as Uber and Lyft, send the proper messaging so that we can avoid maybe some things in the past and some lessons learned. So we will be addressing that also. Number 11. 11 is the next one that we will be asking for a deviation. This has to do with closing of our parking facilities. We will be asking deviation to reopen them. We do not have yet the magic dollar amount that we'll be charging. We have up to $100, obviously, for the garages. That's not necessarily our intent. We're revisiting that. We're looking at what could happen with some of the other deviations that we're going to get into and how those things play with each other in terms of setting the proper rates, et cetera. Number 12 is implementing the high impact rate. This is what I just mentioned that allows us to go up to $100 on the garages. Number 13 is the next one that we're asking for deviation, and that is something that was brought up today by several speakers. This is the restriction on on-street parking on Ocean Drive, Collins, and Washington from 5th to 16th. What we will be asking is to allow us to bring back and remove the barricades from Washington Avenue specifically. And that is the request that we'll be making tomorrow at the City Commission.
And we'll discuss that a little bit later.
Correct. We'll discuss them when the time comes. 14, just to wrap it up, is continue working with the county regarding the Venetian causeways and the bridges and closures, so we'll continue to do that. Number 15 is the potential of creating a special event zone or zones if legally justified. I don't know that we're looking at that, but that's something that was there before. And lastly is exploring alternatives for other modes of transportation, which we have, as you know, our water taxis, and it's been operating and it's been very successful so far. We have, of course, our trolleys, freebies and other ride shares that our transportation department can address in more specificity. With that.
So David, let's go through the items that the administration is seeking at tomorrow's meeting a waiver on, and to understand them better, and perhaps the committee can provide some feedback to the administration ahead of tomorrow's meeting.
So what we're going to be asking is, right now, the the closures of the beaches at 6 PM are conflicting with the extended activations that the commission has approved. As these activations, and if I could ask Lisette to come up in terms of, to discuss the timeframes of the activations, but many are going well beyond the 6 PM mark, and their impact, affecting also because they're activating the border with the beach.
Until what time? So what's the flexibility you're seeking?
We're prepared to be discussing it in more detail tomorrow, but I believe we were looking, Lisette, at something closer to 10 PM on the closure of the beaches.
Good morning, Commissioner Fernandez, Vice Mayor, and committee members. Lisa Arrogante, Director of Tourism and Culture. So the timeframe that we have for the events are ending around 10 to 11 o'clock, and so that's why we're asking for the flexibility.
So right now, the policy is to close public beaches from 5th Street to 15th Street or portions thereof at 6 PM.
Correct.
And you're saying, you're asking for what time?
A little bit later than that, we have events like Future Proof, that they have activations until 10 or 11 o'clock, and so that would impact, that's just an example.
So perhaps what you're requesting is to give discretion to the city administration as to the appropriate beach closure time based on the events that we're having?
Yes.
Okay, so not setting a firm 6 PM closure
Right.
and extending that discretion to the city administration?
Yes,
That's
because we'll
correct.
have activations going on the beachfront, and we will have guests here at that time.
How do the members and commissioners feel about this?
I'm supportive of that, and I think it's a separate item with relation to the barricades, right? So we'll
Yeah.
get to that point later. I have comments on that.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that as well. And last year, we talked about making sure that our closure times coincided with sunset so that we weren't kicking people off the beach when it was still beautiful out. So, discretion is the better part of valor. And so let's use common sense. And if people start going haywire, which we don't anticipate, we'll act accordingly. But let's operate on the best assumption that the problem has been solved and people are eager to come back and have a great time.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Magazine.
Yeah, I would agree. Even events aside, I think that was one of the things that be looking to add some flexibility with, as well as the barricades. There's in no way am I supportive of having that up and down Washington Avenue, Collins Avenue, and things like that. So I think some flexibility here with the beach closures. In March, the beach is the best part of our city. So people, what I saw last year is there are a lot of people that come here to truly enjoy March in the way we want everybody to come to our city and enjoy that. So let's give them one of the best resources that's possible. We do want to shy away from the unorganized, large crowds that gather by some of the lifeguard stands and turns into their own like quasi concerts or things like that. So I think that's why it's good to give discretion, not flat out setting black and white standards. So, we're going to put our trust in you all.
And so let me just ask this, because I have received concerns about the limited access to the beach. People are concerned that with only 2 access points, and I think that that's what's been proposed. Who can guide me as to which are the access points for the beach?
I believe the police chief may be addressing this.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Wayne Jones, Police Chief. We have in past years restricted access to the beach for one and one reason only, so we can enforce these young people bringing on all sorts of things that are prohibited, to include coolers filled with alcohol, to include big loudspeakers onto the beach where they tend to have parties. So that's why it's been restricted in the past. I haven't made a determination as to which access will be restricted this year. That's still under discussion with the.
Has it been determined that you will be?
It has not been determined whether or not, how much restrictions we're going to apply this year versus what we've done in the past.
Because the concerns that I've I've received is that it creates a concentration of people at these access points that's not safe, but then it also pushes people into other areas. They'll try to get in south of Fifth. I know Andres, every year raises a concern. You've been very vocal about the impact that the access point has. It creates an overflow to the other areas where you don't have that limited access point. So it's something that I think we probably would be supportive of, giving you that discretion of, not having to only have 2 access points and consider having more to avoid that overflow into other residential areas.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, perhaps we could implement something like the Goodwill Ambassadors Program, or even having reallocated city employees that are there serving as access, so we don't have to strain the police resources that could be better allocated elsewhere, but to have some sort of program where we're still providing those checks and balances at all entry points. But I do think that it is wise, because what I've noticed with my own 2 eyes is creating that clumping effect or cluster effect on the beaches, where it concentrates it in these 2 areas, and then we have these large swaths that just go kind of unutilized. So if we're able to spread that out, it just doesn't give that bunched-in feeling.
Yeah, and by the way, we have done that in real time, based on feedback from our folks in the field, based on feedback from some of the vendors on the beach itself, who ask us in real time, hey, we're having a problem in certain parts of the beach where people are getting on and off. Can you sort of roll back some of the closures? And we did. And so we'll continue to do that. But again, we haven't made a final determination on which ones are going to be closed this year.
All right.
Can I?
Commissioner Dominguez, and then Commissioner Vaughn.
I'm sure we're going to do this again, but deploying the Goodwill Ambassadors, and is the county going to help us this year? I know that in years past that had changed, but there's new people. So where are we with the Goodwill Ambassadors and their help on the access points that we have on the beach?
So we'll be using our City of Miami Beach Goodwill Ambassadors as well as the counties, where the ask has been made to the county. I think our relationship is a tad bit better this year than it has been in recent years. It seems very, very likely they will be supporting our ask, particularly on the 2 key high-impact weekends.
Well, I couldn't have asked for a better segue than that. Thank you, Chief. My question is that normally the weekend surrounding St. Patrick's Day is like the most volatile weekend. This year, St. Patrick's Day is on a Tuesday. So are you anticipating the weekend prior or the weekend after being the most potentially volatile?
Both. I think weekend prior, we're looking at just over 300 colleges that are out, and the weekend after is just over 400 colleges that are out. The weekends before those 2 weekends and the weekends after, I think it dropped to around 100 or so. So both the weekends we're looking at being the really key weekends to focus on.
Which 2 weekends, I'm sorry?
The weekend of the 9th and the following weekend of the 16th.
So are both of those weekends, and Lisette, this might be a question for you, both of those weekends have activations with events? Adidas is one, I think.
Yes, absolutely, Commissioner Bott. We have Waterpalooza is starting March 12th through the 13th, and then we have the Adidas Athletics Games the following weekend, the 20th and 21st.
Okay, so both those weekends are covered with?
Yes, and when we curate these activations, we take that into consideration of putting the biggest events on those 2 big weekends, correct.
There is one weekend, though, I think it's maybe the one after the Athlinks weekend that there's nothing, is that right?
That's correct. You're saying weekend 3?
That's when we had High Rocks.
No,
That-
that
but
is
they're
where we
not
have
coming.
Adidas Athletics. We
Oh.
have, it's filled. After that, then we have Ultra Miami Music Week, so we have
Okay.
lots of
Okay,
amazing
so we've got
activations.
something going all
Absolutely.
throughout.
Our
Okay.
hotels are super busy during that time.
That's what we love to see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let me ask you, do we have any data as to hotel occupancy, especially those 2 weekends that we're more concerned about, the 9th and the 16th? What are the numbers from our partners telling us?
We don't have it at this time, but we can get one comparison from years prior.
Okay, but we don't have access to data telling us how are we in terms of occupancy during the night? I mean,
Yes.
that's usually readily available.
We can get that from the GNCBB. They provide a report every Friday that gives us that information.
Okay. All right, but we should ideally have it ahead of tomorrow, as we're discussing these measures again tomorrow as a full commission. It would be helpful to know how are we doing in terms of occupancy projections. So that would be helpful to have. All right, David.
Of course. The next two measures are closely related, 11 and 13. 11 has to do with the parking facilities, and 13 has to do with parking availability on Washington Avenue that we didn't have before. Related to the Measure 11 in the parking facility, what we're asking is basically allows the DVA, give us the flexibility to operate the facilities appropriately and also to establish appropriate rates, obviously under the caps that are already established. We're looking at that now, and again, we'll know more in the next week or two, especially after this item is approved or not, or modified. When we discuss it tomorrow, we'll know if Washington is approved, and now we know we have parking on Washington, that sort of plays out into maybe the rates in the garages. So that's why we haven't have a fixed rate yet at this point.
So when we're talking about item number 13, and the ability to allow parking on Washington Avenue, that means in order to be able to allow parking, that means we would not have the barricades on Washington Avenue.
That is correct. There would be no barricades on Washington Avenue.
Okay, how about Ocean Drive? Because Ocean Drive is another part of our city where we have seen the barricades, and it just, whatever welcoming message we want to be projecting to the world, this sends the opposite message. What are we proposing, or what is the city administration proposing as it relates to the barricades?
And I want to say a big thank you to David for pinch hitting for me, Eric Carpenter, city manager. Those of you that may not know, I had physical therapy this morning, and so I'm happy to join. Sorry I missed the early parts of the meeting. But the administration's plan at this point in time is to open up parking on Washington Avenue, but we still have concerns about parking and potentially people partying from their cars on the 100 blocks, the 200 blocks, and on Collins Avenue. We're still discussing Ocean Drive, but we believe that keeping the parked vehicles off of Collins and off of the 100 and 200 blocks is still a critical piece of the discussion. Obviously, we will do whatever we're directed to do by the commission, but these are things that we would like to have the flexibility to make the determination game time based on what.
Commissioner Magazine.
Are there, and this is more to facilitate discussion, right? Are there ways or possibilities where we can have, not necessarily go all hands on deck with allowing parking everywhere, but still not having the barricades up? For instance, if there's places where we do not want parking, whether it be certain sections of Washington Avenue, whether it be anything as an example, can we achieve that without using the barricades? Because the barricades, I think it just, one, aesthetically unpleasing, but also just sets this tone and mentality where you're here expecting bad things to happen, right? And it just has, I could see it would have visitors' tents just coming in, right? And it's almost projecting that you're expecting this chaotic scene. So can we essentially achieve where we don't have parking in areas where we would envision it being problematic, but achieving that through means other than having those barricades up?
That's such a great point because, sometimes the blanket policy doesn't work. We know there are areas that might be more concerning on Washington Avenue, address the problems there, but keep the rest of it open. That's such a great point, Commissioner.
So I would welcome our parking director and our chief to speak on this, but my understanding based on conversations with them is that we would have to put out a significant number of no parking tow-away signs, and then that would be a constant game of whack-a-mole trying to keep people from parking in those spaces over the course of the two main weekends. Those are really our critical junctures from our perspective, are those two main weekends just prior to and just after St. Patrick's Day.
But I think we all know, like, for example, 7th Street. I believe 7th Street in Washington is one of those areas where we know is problematic. where we know that in the past, we've seen challenges. And I don't know, Chief, if, I'm saying 7th and Washington because that's what comes to mind. Are there other areas of Washington Avenue that we know that in the past have been problematic?
No, mostly around the 700 block and 600 block of Washington, where we've had issues in the past. I don't think Washington Avenue, by and large, has been a major issue in the past few years.
So perhaps since we know that is an area that traditionally, you can look at data and traditionally, we know that it tends to have challenges. To the commissioner's point, to Commissioner Magazine's point, perhaps we can, identify that as an area and say, hey, listen, we're going to be looking at limiting parking here rather than playing whack-a-mole, Mr. Manager. Data is not whack-a-mole. Data tells us where the problems are. We can target those areas, limit parking there so that we don't have the chaotic environment or people drinking out of their cars or engaging in other activities while keeping parking open on the other areas of Washington Avenue.
We could come up with something more creative, but it could be fleet vehicles that are parked there.
And I'm gonna just recognize Commissioner Dominguez and then Vice Mayor Salinas.
Thank you. So with the barricades, I'm not a fan, and we have these beautiful events that are coming. Those people may be staying at hotels, they may be driving in. So if they get to Ocean Drive and they want to valet their car with a barricade, it makes it harder. It's not welcoming, as Commissioner Fernandez mentioned. It's a bad look for these beautiful events that we're having in our city. So I would be in agreement with what Commissioner Fernandez just said. Remove the barricades, Ocean, Collins, and Washington, and focus the barricades on the problem spots. Mitch Novick spoke earlier that 9th is a problem. Let's look at all hands on deck there. You mentioned 7th Street, but having them in the rest of our city, when we've got people coming in that need to park. Also, Lincoln Road mentioned earlier what a detriment it was to their businesses and how many locals ran into issues the past couple of years trying to get to where they needed to. So in discussions with the city manager, I know that Sunset Harbor parking is off the table, so is 41st Street, but I would seriously consider also the Lincoln Road ones.
I actually agree. Thank you, Chair. I actually agree that I don't support barricades on Washington or Collins. The less parking we have, the more people just drive around, and that creates traffic. And it's like sweeping water. Then it goes to other areas, then it goes into Flamingo Park, then it goes south of 5th. Let's just allow people to park. So I would not support barricades on Washington or Collins. Thank you.
Commissioner Magazine.
Commissioner Bott? And maybe if we could hear from Will, because I also don't want to just say, well, we're opening the entire floodgates and just going back to old. One of the things that I think is one of our primary tools in our toolkit is really enforcing parking in the residential areas, whether that's, assure me that we're going to have our parking enforcement team out in full force, especially in our residential areas. In the years where I've seen it most chaotic, it was when there was just unfettered access to our Flamingo Park areas and things like that. So I think if we can keep that, ensure that that's cleaned up with very strict and stringent enforcement, we could be a little more flexible in some of the commercial corridors.
Yes, Will McDonald, Director of Parking. So I'll kind of break it up into two sections. When you talk about Ocean, Collins, and Washington, so the decision, for example, that's made on Ocean is going to impact Collins, because obviously if Ocean remains closed, then that valet is shifted out to Collins, and it now shrinks down the amount of eligible parking on Collins, because now we are loading up Collins with valet ramps that were existing on Ocean. So in theory, that becomes, I guess, a parking blockage in of itself, because we put up, we call them GPs, we put up signage that discourages individuals from parking there. It is a tow-away zone because those are now valet ramps. And then from the Washington Avenue aspect, what the city manager and the chief were alluding to a little bit earlier about the game of whack-a-mole, obviously physical barriers. Parking enforcement exists in Miami Beach for a reason. Doesn't matter if we paint curbs red or yellow or put up no parking tow-away signs. Individuals will make a decision, And then at that point in time, it becomes an enforcement aspect where we have to get a truck, and obviously in the traffic, that can take 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. So it does become a game of whack-a-mole. I understand both sides, but depending on what this flexibility is going to allow us to do is make decisions in the moment, what is best for the, I'll say, parking and transportation ecosystem, the public safety ecosystem, on what's going to work best for the community.
And I think what you're generally hearing here is that overall, at least as it relates to the barricades, I'm sensing, this inclination against the barricades because of the image that it sends. But at the same time, there are certain areas, like as was mentioned by Mitch, 9th and Collins is an area of concern. The 700 block of Washington Avenue that the chief mentioned is concerning. Maybe those are the areas where we may want to target the barricades in a limited basis, so that it's not blanket all of Washington Avenue with barricades, blanket all of Collins Avenue with barricades, blanket all of Ocean Drive with barricades. No, we know we have these two small hotspots of concern. That doesn't define the entire district. The district is welcoming, it should be fun. People should be able to walk around it, cross the street, have a good time, be able to park and access businesses in general throughout the district. And those 2 or 3 areas that you all might identify as areas of concerns, well, in those 2 or 3, blocks, you might have to have some barricades. I don't know if that generally reflects the sentiment of the committee.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Do we agree with that?
Yeah, I wanted to just build on that.
And I'll just reiterate too with Lincoln Road, I mean, they're going through construction right now. They have so many things that are impacting them. To have any lots or garages closed for Lincoln Road would
I agree
be
with
terrible to the businesses.
And also, if we're talking about far fewer barricades, then, we're talking about maybe 3 blocks worth of barricades rather than entire, sections of the city. Perhaps, given the historic data, you can have the barricades removed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, knowing that Monday and Tuesday would still be part of that high-impact part of St. Patrick's Day, or whatever. I mean, maybe it's, you open it up a little bit, now only have them when absolutely necessary, because it's not such a cost center to take them out, put them out, take them back, put them out again, because it's much
I have a question.
less.
Vice Mayor.
Just a quick question. When we had the Calvin Harris Basil Pluma concert over that weekend, and we had 30,000 people in our city, and the next night was a little bit less, did we have barricades?
I don't believe we did.
Nowhere. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, just want to build on that, because I don't think you touched on everything there. That's on the commercial corridors, but please assure me that we're going to have active parking enforcement in our residential areas, because while I want to be a welcoming community, help our businesses, I also want to not start losing the good momentum that we've built on really protecting our residential areas.
Will, or Mr. Manager.
Yeah, and to that point, Commissioner, and thank you, Chair, the discussion from my perspective is 2 different things. It's the parking prohibition by use of barricades versus the neighborhood protection that we've historically done for Flamingo Park and South Point. I would suggest that we keep the neighborhood protection at the street intersections, but just remove the barricades where they're blocking the parking along the commercial corridors.
Agreed.
And
Oh, go ahead.
let me touch on, I'll specifically focus on Zone 4, which is Collins Park, Flamingo Park, Zone 2, and then South Fifth, which is Zone 1. And then we have the residential portion of Zone 5, which is an entertainment district. During the CFP, we specifically assigned overtime parking enforcement specialists to these areas that had no other responsibility than utilize our license plate recognition technology to drive through the neighborhoods. The results displayed from the number of tows that we towed out of just these 3 specific areas, the impact that we were able to have. I think when, that was obviously during the CFP when there was no neighborhood protection. Obviously, when you have the neighborhood protection barricades in place, that is now going to further, I would say, enhance the ability for residents to find parking in these areas such as Flamingo Park. And so we will still deploy parking enforcement specialists on overtime duty to these zones specifically because I'll say that Flamingo Park Zone 2 is our most densely populated from a residential parking program aspect. And so we have to protect every single linear foot that we can there. So when we pair the extra enforcement along with the residential parking barricade program, I think it'll be a very good result.
And to that point, during the college football weekend, we saw, which I hadn't seen before, somebody literally on social media saying, hey, hit me up, I've got 20 resident parking passes for sale, which, by the way, for anyone listening, is highly illegal, so don't
Yep.
do that. But, we need to be monitoring that as well, because we need to shut that nonsense down.
So first and foremost, that actually allowed us to do a review with our IT team. They were phenomenal. We were able to essentially look at that particular individual's account and realize there were no guest passes sold off that account that weekend, thankfully. We are in talks to see if we can limit at certain times the amount of, I'll say, visitor passes that can be used. We obviously don't want to hinder, these are where they live. We want to ensure that they're able to have a friend or two over. But obviously anything that can be flagged as possible commercial use, we want our team to be able to maybe either create a flag that makes us aware of what's going on, or maybe put some parameters in place that, whether that number is 2 or 3 in a 24-hour period, that there can't be any more purchased on a per-day basis that could possibly be perceived as commercial use.
Vice Mayor Salinas.
So on the topic of barricades and traffic patterns, which I'd like to know about a little bit too, because I am a resident of Flamingo Park, and there's been multiple instances where I can't get into my neighborhood. So I want to discuss a couple different things, namely the traffic pattern on Fifth Street. If folks will be allowed to turn into Flamingo Park from Meridian, Jefferson, Michigan, Lenox, number one. Number two, I've had instances where I shop at Publix on Fifth and Alton, and I cannot exit that parking garage and turn right onto Sixth Street to go home. I'm forced into some weird traffic, and I don't want to fight with barricade people. That's not my way. I just go by the law and the rules. And so then I end up, doing this weird loop to get home. So I'd like to know that. And then lastly, in the past, there's been different regulations regarding allowing folks to show a resident ID and then passing through the barricades, which is tough because then the person at that intersection is dragging a barricade back and forth to open and close that street when they have a steady stream of residents that need to get home. So, this is why, and again, my point was that I don't think that barricades are necessary per se, but I get that there is some fear that, the neighborhoods will be taken over, et cetera. So I just want to know how it's going to be managed and how the barricade protectors are going to be able to open and close the barricades for residents that need to get home where they live, and then the traffic patterns and how folks are going to be able to pull in from Fifth Street and where the opening, closing, all of that's going to work. And also which weekends, because is it just going to be the 2 high impact, or is it going to be all month long? Is it going to be just Thursday through Saturday, Sunday, all week long? If you could just clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question, Commissioner. So the plan right now is for the 2 high-impact weekends, Thursday through Sunday, to insulate the Flamingo Park neighborhood as well as the South of Fish Street neighborhood. We started using this a number of years ago, quite frankly, because of complaints by residents unable to park when they got home because the parking were taken by other folks. Too many vehicles cutting through, trying to get from Alton Road, for example, over to Washington Avenue, or from Fifth Street, north of Fifth Street, and of course, south of Fifth Street as well. So the plan to insulate both neighborhoods was done a number of years ago and has been effective to that regard. Understanding that there are sometimes inconveniences to residents like you trying to get home from Publix. We have for years asked our folks manning those intersections to look at an identification card if it is a beach resident, even if you don't live in that area south of Fifth or Flamingo Park, to allow that beach resident through. Again, the whole idea was to limit others from sort of cutting through and or parking in the neighborhood. We could revisit that, make more access points available for residents trying to traverse the neighborhoods, if that's the will of the commission.
So, thank you, Chief. But that, I guess, is my question, is that, so we will be allowing the barricade folks to, once a resident shows an ID with an address in that area, to get through? So it won't be, you're turned away, you cannot enter here?
Correct. And
Okay,
that's something
thank you.
we've done in the past.
And that's going to be implemented on the two more high impact weekends of the 9th and the 16th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask, and then I'm going to go to Commissioner Dominguez. As it relates to Flamingo Park neighborhood, there's also a fire flow project that's going on in Flamingo Park. Is that fire flow project stopping during this period of time to help facilitate, or is that continuing? How are we informing residents on how to navigate Flamingo Park as it relates to the barricades, and then other detours as it relates to improvement projects like fire flow?
So historically, we've put out communications on how best to access Flamingo Park during this resident protection zone program. The fire flow project will be going on during that time period. There will be lane closures. I don't know, do we have any full street closures?
I don't think we will, and we will be working with the contractor to mitigate as many closures as we can. Fire flow project is obviously water mains. It's a little easier than dealing with, say, a forest main. So we'll be working on that, and we will report back on what the ultimate impact will be.
But at one point, we were having actual entire streets closed where people were having to detour, and it was causing significant inconvenience. So if in addition to the barricades and having limited access, once they get into their neighborhood, they're being detoured, it's something that we have to be very mindful of for the residents that live there. So, you know, I'd like to know, hopefully by tomorrow's discussion, what's going to be the real traffic impact as it relates to this fire flow project on the residents during this period of time.
I will coordinate with the contractor today and have a report tomorrow for you.
Commissioner Dominguez.
Thank you. So back to the chief and talking about the traffic pattern. The month of March is one of the most beautiful weather times here in our city, and the businesses have, in years past, looked for the month of March to help carry them through July, August, September, when it's super slow. The DUI checkpoints were a problem. We have many south of Fifth restaurants that rely on people that were coming over the bridge and making reservations, and they couldn't get through because it was taking hours, and they just canceled. They wouldn't do it. Can the DUI checkpoints start later? Are we still going to have them? What are the plans for that?
Commissioner, as it stands right now, yes, there's a DUI checkpoint scheduled for the peak weekends. Yes, there are LPR that's right now planned. In past years, we did amend our start times to push back later because of that complaint we had from a number of restaurateurs complaining that folks couldn't get to their dinners that they arranged to have. So we have pushed those times back to allow folks to make their.
To what time? What time are we?
I think last year was pushed back to 9 o'clock. The initial time was scheduled for 7, we pushed it back 2 hours. We were always very flexible to do what we need to do to accommodate those folks asking.
I think the real effectiveness is communicating, hey, listen, we're going to be doing these LPR and DUI checkpoints. You know, I wouldn't be opposed of even, you know, 10 p.m. And of course, it's up to your discretion, Chief. But the reality is, you know, people who are coming to our city to go have dinner, you know, they still might be coming in at 9 o'clock there, and we're still going to be capturing them in that traffic. So to the extent that you all could consider, and by the way, this came up yesterday at the chamber meeting as well, to the extent that we could consider pushing back the implementation of the LPR so that we still have it, so that we can still message it as well, but not impact those who are going to eat in our restaurants. That way we find a proper balance.
Understood.
Commissioner Bott and then Vice Mayor Salinas.
So two things regarding the LPR and DUI checkpoints. Like DUI, they're both public safety issues. And as we are now in a new world with long guns, something that you can trot around town with, I am very interested in making sure that we catch as many people who aren't supposed to have them as possible. So I would rather err on the side of caution for one more year and get the learning from that than push it back too late. But also, my guess is people who are coming in to do questionable things probably aren't doing it at 8 or 9 o'clock. So you guys are the experts. I just wanted to put that out there. The other question I had, Will, I don't know if there has been pushback on traffic being impeded by rideshare drivers circling or stopping willy-nilly the way we have in high-impact weekends or weeks like the boat show or Art Basel, because it's spread over the course of a month. Do you have any learning on that? Have you heard anything? And if you have, what are the plans to mitigate that?
So I will I'll lean on our transportation team not to kick the bucket a little bit, but I think when we start talking about where we allow parking and where we don't allow parking, I think there's some opportunities that we could possibly talk to our partners at Uber and Lyft. And while we can't designate where they drop off, we can, with their assistance, designate where they pick up, because essentially once you're a rider, you're allowed to be let out wherever you desire. So I think we can have a talk about maybe identifying places that are no parking zones, but that give these individuals pickup, and I'll just say pickup points, because again, we can't designate a drop off. And we could do that, I feel comfortable saying relatively quickly, because we've already done it within, for example, Lyft. They have some places where they can't go on Ocean Drive, which is a relic of something that was done in the past. So I think we can have some conversations with our partners about creating pickup points along some of these thoroughfares to get them off the road when they're doing their pickups. When they're drop-offs, we don't have a whole lot.
Drop-offs are fine. Pickups, that would be a great conversation to have with both of them. And then is there anything we can do, and I don't know what we're allowed to do legally, but this notion of especially the black cars circling and circling and circling, looking for their next big fare?
So yes, there are mitigation efforts that other cities have put into place. The challenge comes to, for example, I'll use one of the best examples. Las Vegas had the same issue with the Las Vegas Strip. However, they took a garage that was very little used off Strip, designated it as, and like many airports do now, this is the waiting lot for rideshare.
Yeah.
And so it really said, hey, if you're going to pick up a rideshare, it will not give you the choice to receive the call unless you are in the designated area.
Maybe, sorry to jump in like this, but maybe this is a way we could address the issue of having barricades at 6th, 7th, 9th to prevent parking. Maybe if that becomes the rideshare designated or a rideshare designated pickup spot, it accomplishes the same thing, because you've got official business happening there, you've got eyes on the street there, and it doesn't seem as unwelcoming, and it brings a different kind of vibe to the thing. So I will let you guys all mull that over, but that might be a way to kill a couple of birds with one stone.
Absolutely.
Is having designated areas for
Yeah, yep.
All right, great. So we've gone through a number of stuff, a number of the other requests. Yep, you wanted to speak, right?
I did already, but thank you
Yes,
so
okay. Was there any other comment from the day? So we were going through the three requests on the public beaches, and we generally agreed giving the administration flexibility so that we don't have a hard closure of the beach at 6 p.m., giving the administration discretion to close the beach later. I mean, we close the beach at 10 p.m., so we have events. We're not forcing a beach closure at 6 p.m. And we're going to give you guys discretion to determine access points. Right now, there's only 2 access points, but I think we generally agreed that perhaps, it might be prudent to have more than 2 access points. On the garages, we generally agree not to set a $100 parking rate, but allow the city administration to determine what would be an appropriate parking rate that's not onerous, so the businesses can continue operating and keep the garages open. Is that correct? Is that the general feedback that, what you were requesting on the garages?
So we were asking for the ability to keep them open, because right now the direction is to close them 6 p.m. Thursday and reopen 6 a.m. Monday. Right now, the legislation that's in place gives us the ability to go up to $100. We don't think that that necessarily needs to change.
But I think what the general feedback that you're getting from the committee is, provide the parking, have the parking open. You have the discretion to be able to close down the garages should it be necessary, should things get out of hand. So rather than forcing a closure of the garages, you have the discretion as our city manager to determine if it rises to that point to be able to do it, and giving you the discretion on the rate as well, so that we're not imposing a $100 parking rate, but it's at your discretion.
Understood. Happy with that. Thank you.
And so recapping, sidewalk cafes remain open. The policy is not to close on the sidewalk cafes. Barricades, generally, we all feel that barricades should be removed from Ocean, Collins to Washington, and perhaps identify the hotspots like 9th and Collins that Mitch mentioned, or the 700 block of Washington hotspots that might need it in targeted areas, but not have all of these commercial corridors barricaded up. Allowing you, Mr. Manager, to open the garages, maintaining a flexible rate so that we're not imposing a $100 rate. Perhaps consider implementing the LPR, but a little bit later. And of course, that is at your discretion. And not forcing a beach closure at 6 p.m., possibly, doing it later. Based on the events that we have and providing for some more access points. Are we all on the same page, commissioners?
Yes, the only thing I wanted to clarify is the rates for the garages. Are we leaving that discretionary? I don't know if we want to roll it back to just $3 parking. I don't even know if we want to have differences for different weekends, if we're anticipating the first couple of weekends, the first 2 weekends of March being kind of higher impact, or would have been more problematic weekends, if we want to give our city staff discretion to almost do a dynamic pricing schedule or things like that.
What's the plan right now?
So right now, the plan is for, I believe it's all 3 weekends, the 7th, 8th, 9th, the 12th, 13th, 14th, and the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, to close those garages.
Okay.
We don't want to.
But if we grant your request to keep them open, what is your plan? If we grant tomorrow your request at commission to keep them open, what would be your rate?
My plan would be to have, similar to what the commissioner said, dynamic parking rates based on what we're seeing on the ground. We would probably start at, we're typically at $30 to $40. We would probably start at the higher end of $40. And depending on what we're seeing out there, we would like to have the ability to go up to 100, but we don't anticipate.
But we're not imposing that.
Right.
And that makes sense, because it's also good to be competitive with the market. If the market is dictating, $20, $30, $40, depending on the time and the demand, it's good to be able to have that flexibility, so that, the private lots are charging $30, we should be competitive with that as well. Does that address your concern, Commissioner Magazine?
When I think what got us into this situation, it really wasn't people coming down and staying in our hotels creating problems. It was really people driving in from the quasi-local area. Parking is, we all pointed out, kind of partying out of your cars. So with parking, I do think that we should consider whether we just go full steam ahead, opening the garages, opening parking on Washington, opening on Collins, or perhaps we scale back the parking on the commercial corridors a little bit if we're going to be opening our garages. I think that gives us a bit of hybrid flexibility. We're not voting on anything today, Mr.
No.
Chair. That'll be something that I kind of chew on and contemplate overnight. I want to provide some relief, certainly. Maybe that's better served by starting with more accommodative parking rates in our garages, like $40. But I think if we do that, we can better manage than just opening up parking widespread in our commercial corridors and get back into that situation where people are partying out of their cars.
Interesting.
So maybe even if we would start that way for the first 2 weekends, if they go problem-free, maybe bringing back the parking along the commercial corridors for the third and fourth weekend in March. But that's something I'll kind of contemplate overnight, whether we just go full steam back, open up the garages, open up parking on Washington and Collins, or if we kind of do a multi-pronged approach where we say, you know what, we can actually better manage parking. Let's have it at more manageable, competitive rates at $40 or $50, but we're still going to largely limit our parking on the commercial corridors.
And that's, it's interesting feedback, and I think it's something that, you know, the administration should think about ahead of our conversation tomorrow. Of course, you know, we're going to be discussing all of this again tomorrow when we vote on it. I do think it's good, you know, do away with the barricades. Maybe you still limit the parking a little bit, but you make parking available in the garages to make it easier to manage. It's good feedback. All right. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us. Commissioner Bond.
Yeah, I want to be mindful, and I know we're a long way from this, but some of you who are around long enough will remember when my friends and neighbors had a really terrible experience in a parking garage at the end of a day that was part of a beach weekend. It wasn't spring break, but where people were coming off the beach en masse after a long day of, you know, drinking and cavorting on the beaches, and the parking got backed up in a parking garage. And he was there waiting for his wife to come down with the groceries at the Publix down here on Fifth, and got the living crap beat out of him by somebody who got annoyed because he was trying to help direct traffic, and you know, is living with injuries that have never healed, you know, traumatic brain injury, and they ended up leaving Miami Beach. We are not there anymore. I understand that, but I do want to, and I'm not suggesting we don't open up the garages, but I'm very leery of going back to, you know, open, no sort of guidance on pricing, so that we can manage the flow of people leaving the city, leaving the garages at the same time, and making sure that the garages are staffed appropriately to help manage the egress of people, because people get pissed off and they're tired and they're, you know, drunk, and, you know, that's the reality of the matter. And I don't condone drunk driving. That's not where I'm going with this. But, you know, I think we need to be mindful that getting people into the garages is only part of the conversation. We need to get them out of the garages safely as well.
Will we be having enhanced security or even police presence? And again, we know that there are certain garages that in the past have been concerning, that where accidents have happened. You know, knowing that there are specific locations that have been of concern, is there going to be enhanced safety staffing?
Yes, sir, there will be. In fact, we assign 2 police officers per garage during spring break.
Okay. All right. Very good. Commissioner Dominguez.
I wasn't clear with the city manager's comment on the garages. They will remain open, but you have the option of closing. That's what we'll be voting on?
So my suggestion was to give me flexibility on the resolution that was passed last June, which directs me to close the garages. I'm not foreseeing that we need to close the garages, but I do want to have pricing flexibility of up to the $100 based on what we're seeing in real time.
And if you need to close it, to be able to close it if necessary, but that's not the plan.
Right.
The plan is to keep them open, have dynamic pricing. You're looking at probably $20, $30, or $40 minimum, capping it at 100, but have it fluctuating depending on demand.
Yeah.
And we've excluded Sunset Harbor, 41st Street, and I would want to make sure and reiterate that the same thing happens for Lincoln Road.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
And if I may bring up two items. One, the commission was so gracious to pass the new technology. We are moving forward with that technology installation, and it should be completed by the time spring break arrives. That will give us the opportunity to focus on things such as the large egress. So pay on entry is an absolute opportunity for us to require payment as they come in using TAP, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever people have. That means the exit, the egress is much more fluid, so therefore everybody's already paid, they just drive right out. And so we're looking at ways to control traffic, help the egress, and then some Commissioner Magazine talks about the ecosystem between garage parking and on-street parking. I've already talked about it with my assistant city manager, and there's some things we can do for on-street parking that try to discourage it. But obviously, resident rates would still stay into effect. So that way, if a resident needs to pull up in a place where we are allowing parking on the street, they're still going to pay their $1 an hour. But we are going to try to dissuade visitors with maybe some rate structure or some hour caps to hang out on street.
Is this your first March?
It is. I was down here looking for an apartment the last time spring break came.
Thank you. So these are important policies that we're going to be voting on tomorrow. The most important part of this is not just us passing the policies, but communicating it. And item number 9 of the resolution we passed in June was directing the city administration to implement a robust marketing and communications campaign. It'll be great to see that campaign where I think everyone's very excited to know how we're communicating with the public. It's something that we've been doing now for many years, and as you can see, it was something that was of a lot of interest to our residents who participated in public comment. There were a lot of people who were specifically speaking to our messaging. So, Mr. Manager, Melissa.
If I can jump in, and I'll start off by apologizing to each of you because I have made a commitment that we would unveil this as part of a larger marketing campaign. So we will be unveiling it within the next 24 hours. But we are ready to launch something that I think will be a good pivot from what we've done in the past, which has been a discouragement campaign, to more of a encouragement while still articulating that we have rules here in Miami Beach and that we expect people to honor those rules.
When you say unveiling it in the next 24 hours, I haven't heard anything about it being unveiled. What event are we doing? What unveiling are we doing?
So in the next 24 hours, we have 2 events. We have the State of the City address and we have a commission meeting. And we will be unveiling it at one or the other or both of those events over the next 24 hours. It is part of our larger media campaign.
I want to know, when are we unveiling this campaign? Last year, we received an LTC of when it was being unveiled. I mean, if something, I haven't seen it. So if the city is putting out a campaign, I'm sure I want to see, I'm sure our residents, I see heads nodding here in the audience, they want to see it. I don't know if my colleagues want to see it, but if we're going to be unveiling something, it'll be great to see it.
And we would love to show it to you privately. If you would like to see it, we can make it available. Obviously, I would love for each of you to see it before we unveil it. We've reached out to everybody in the last 24 hours and made that offer. We will continue to make ourselves available to show you.
Okay. So when is it being unveiled? I mean, it's spring break is a few weeks away. What day? When is it being unveiled?
It will be unveiled either at the State of the City this evening.
I don't want to play whack-a-mole. I want to know, when is it going to be unveiled? Is it going to be today? Is it going to be tomorrow? When? Huh? I don't like the suspense. I don't like having to guess. When is it? I mean, there must be a plan to unveil this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you guys want to see the campaign?
What have we done in the past? How does it typically get unrolled?
So typically,
Sure, I can answer that. Nice to see everyone again. So typically for the past, at least I can tell you the 2 years, we have just posted it on our social media platforms.
with no unveiling as such. It just goes out.
I remember seeing it at commission, though.
After.
We should probably do the same.
When is it scheduled to break from a media perspective?
As soon as it's unveiled.
Okay, but so in years
I
past.
mean, I
in
feel like
year-
we're talking in circles. I
in-
feel, yeah.
In years past, you said there's been no unveiling, it just goes out. So
Correct.
when did that happen? Like 2 weeks before spring break, a month before spring break?
No, I mean, this week. It's,
So why are we breaking from tradition? If that's what typically happens, why are we doing something different this year?
So, again, I will start with an apology. My offer to the mayor's office to include it in the State of the City address is still pending, and I don't want to go back on my commitment and my word that they could use it if they so choose.
And they have, I mean, that's tonight, right? They haven't committed to whether or not they're, I mean, shouldn't they have their presentation done by now?
So I don't have confirmation on that. I'm trying to get confirmation on that, which is why I'm not able to confirm at this moment in time.
I'll just say that, Mr. Manager, this marketing plan belongs to the city. This is a public meeting to discuss spring break. It is not a marketing plan that belongs to one office or to one elected official or to be unveiled at one elected official's event. This is something that belongs to the city of Miami Beach. It was a directive to your administration to implement. It was a directive of the full commission. And here we are. We've all made time. You had 5 commissioners here who made time to sit here today to discuss spring break. You know, we should have been able to see that presentation today. I've been requesting this it's no surprise that I was going to be requesting this today. And right now you have 4 commissioners present. Earlier you had 5 commissioners present, all of which unanimously voted to direct this administration to prepare this marketing campaign, not for one elected official, but for the city of Miami Beach. It is a work product of the city of Miami Beach, and just like any other work product that we've been discussing, moratoriums, LPRs, barricades, parking, and any other type of matter, you know, this is one of the things, especially given the amount of residents and businesses that participated specifically to talk about the communication and the messaging. You know, we should, depriving this committee and the commissioners of this, I don't believe is appropriate, but that's a commitment you made, Mr. Manager. It's unfortunate. All right, any other comments from the committee? All right, so the feedback that you're getting today as it relates to all these other matters, everything except communications and marketing. Yes, Commissioner Bob.
I'm sorry, I do have one. Regardless of what happens at tonight's State of the City, I think there'll be far more people tuning in to tomorrow's commission meeting. And I would like to request that whether or not it gets shown tonight, that it definitely gets shown tomorrow, because so much of the success of breaking up with spring break has come from the campaign that was brilliant and viral and, you know, lightning in a bottle. And so much of the success of reconnecting with spring break in a healthy manner going forward will also rest on the shoulders of this campaign. And so for not to have the public airing with all of the elected officials and all of the people who are tuning in, the residents and the business owners. I mean, we have business owners, Troy's here and Joel's here, and, you know, I can't even see every. Mitch is here and Steve's here, and I saw some other folks who aren't here anymore, but who are significant stakeholders in our spring break business economy. And I don't know if they'll be here tomorrow, but, you know, hopefully they can tune in or at the very least see it after the fact. But it is such an important part of this, and that's me as a branding and marketing professional for my entire career. So it is disappointing that it's not here. Regardless of whether it gets shown tonight, that's great, but what's critical is that it gets shown tomorrow at the commission meeting. And I think there should be a larger conversation to set direction going forward. It will presumably be less of a discussion point in years going forward, hopefully, because we'll have done our job, and, you know, it'll be a nice thing to have, and it'll be great, and it will be clever and funny and smart and do what it's supposed to do. But this year is the pivotal year. And so for this to be like this bone of contention is unfortunate, but let's ensure that we see it tomorrow and have time to discuss it and have a conversation about how we're going to treat this going forward.
And I'm just going to remind the administration that the administration works for the collective. The administration works for the city commission, not for one individual commissioner or not for one individual elected official. And the work product requested by the commission of the administration should be accessible to all the elected officials, not limited to one elected official. With that, we're going to put that to rest. I know there were some members of the public who were here in person who weren't here earlier, who were requesting to speak. I don't know if I'm going to give 1 minute at the end because I was asked to give a final opportunity to speak at the end to members of the public who are attending in person. Andres.
So, Andres Acion, 1000 South Point Drive. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for being here and doing this. A couple of ideas. They're mentioning that only 2 points of access were available to go into the beach. I think that we should consider hiring people like event staff that do this at stadiums throughout to be able to have multiple points of entryway onto the beach where you have officers there as backup, but you have a lot more easy flow of going into the beach. Also, there's the boat that does the advertisement that is always on the ocean, advertising a whole bunch of different hotels and events and whatnot. Marketing should consider using that boat to advertise messages to the people that are sitting on the beach, whether it's using the trolley or talking about our new ferry that goes over to the bay. It's a great point of access. I'm not sure if it's already in the works, but it's something that should be considered. And also possibly using a trolley that could be stationed, for instance, on Ocean and 10th. That is a trolley that goes directly from Ocean and 10th directly over to the ferry. It's sort of like a straight shot that gets people out of the beach onto the ferry and try to avoid traffic as much as possible. And then just in general, I don't know throughout this season how many times Ocean Drive is going to be closed for car traffic, but I've been promoting a lot the idea of trying to have Ocean Drive being a northbound 1 lane versus a southbound 1 lane if it is only going to be 1 lane, because honestly, 5th Street is the main artery that gets to Ocean Drive, and for cars to be able to go straight down to Ocean Drive and hang that left instead of having to make a U-turn or going to south of 5th and then trying to figure out what street they're going to make the right on to get to Ocean Drive, and then they do it on 10th Street and then they realize they didn't get all of Ocean Drive, so they drive down to 5th, make a loop again and go back up further to do the same thing all over again. So if the street lines just stay exactly the way they are on Ocean Drive and flip the traffic, it would be a lot more helpful for the flow of traffic overall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing, oh, Mitch, there's Mitch.
My chance to open my big mouth. Beach access, as was stated, would be great if, at least as it impacts myself, I'm on the beach every morning. I tend to run south. I don't like having no access between 5th and 10th, and it's very disruptive to my hotel guests. I provide umbrellas and chairs, and they shouldn't be schlepping this stuff. The sun is to the south of us, and it would be great if Wayne would consider at least opening up 8th Street. Thanks.
I'm sorry, Mitch, you didn't get to see the presentation today.
Yeah, I wanted to see that. That's why I'm around.
Yes. Joel, yes.
So, in general, what a great discussion. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, a lot of positive things. But just want to bring up one thing real quick. The parking director mentioned the goal was to dissuade parking on the street, and I think we should really think about that for a second, because I think we really want to dissuade people from partying in their cars on the street we don't necessarily need to persuade people from not parking on the street. I think it's a very big point to think about. If we really want people to come back here, we really want these events to work, people got to park somewhere. Now, should they be able to party in their cars? No. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And that is a great distinction, and it's a matter of enforcement because we do want locals to be able to go to the restaurants, support the restaurants and the stores, but not necessarily have people tailgating or partying from their cars. So perhaps it's a matter of enforcement, and it's good feedback to take back. Any other members of the public? I'm not opening Zoom because Zoom, we have people who came physically. We went to Zoom earlier in the meeting, so seeing no other members of the public wishing to speak, I think we can adjourn to today's meeting with some great feedback as relates to sidewalk cafes being open, some changes of policy on barricades, hopefully seeing changes to availability of parking and parking rates, access to the beaches and LPRs. So there's been a great conversation, and I look forward to final action being taken at tomorrow's commission meeting. Thank you, colleagues.